Welcome to a cold and frosty London. What's going on with our weather? How are you all today? I hope you're well. So do you remember a couple of days ago I was sitting in the garden in the sunshine, lapping it up in a t-shirt, loving every second of it. But I had said in that video about us having to be a bit flexible because of the weather, and we would do this little cold snap. Oh my word, cold snap indeed. So my plans for the day have completely changed. It has stopped snowing, yay! But the ground is really, really cold. It's not frozen solid, but it's really, really cold. So my plan for planting my seed potatoes today, there's absolutely no point doing it because I'm going to be putting them into absolutely frigid cold soil. They're not going to grow. They're simply not going to grow in soil that's so cold. And actually, they may even rot. And I was thinking about this morning when I was adjusting my plans. So I'm going to be sowing some seeds with you guys in a minute indoors. And it got me thinking about that whole kind of sort of the timing of stuff, because I see in quite a few groups on the computer, on Facebook, that sort of thing, excuse me. I'm a bit of a mouth breather, that's why I always end up with a little tickle. Excuse me a second. So I look in these groups and I can just kind of hear the panic rising of people saying, am I too late to put my potatoes in? And I just think, are you too late? No, it's too early. So look, you have to use a bit of education, an educated guess. You have to use a bit of experience, and if you don't have any, ask, which is why these groups are great. But you also have to be a little bit intuitive too. I mean, think about it. The ground is wet and so frigid cold, if not frozen. Just think about it for a minute. If you put a seed into that ground, is it really going to spring into life? No. So we just all need to cool our boots about things. And on the same subject, I was in a shop the other day and they had a range of seeds, and I thought, oh, I'll just have a look at what they're doing. I didn't get any of them because none of them were organic. But I was looking at some of the tomato seeds because I do like my tomatoes. And you know, I kind of almost felt angry because on one of the packets, I wrote down the dates. Hang on a sec. Yeah, on one of the packets it said, sow January to March, plant out March to May. Now this is a British seed company. I can't imagine anywhere in the country where you can plant out tomatoes in March. It's just crazy. And the reason it kind of made me feel angry was because I thought, if you've never grown a tomato before and this is your first time and you've bought that packet and it says sow in January and you sow them in January, well, the chances are, having sown them indoors, you'll have horrible leggy plants because there just isn't enough light in January. So you'll end up with these leggy, weak plants. And then if you follow their instructions to plant out in March, well, they'll be dead by now because of the snow. Because our vining plants are things like tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, that sort of thing. They can't stand being cooler than 5 degrees. Anything below 5 degrees and it's probably game over for them. So just please bear in mind that even if a seed packet gives an instruction for planting, if you've never ever done it before, use a bit of common sense and intuition. Ask your friends and neighbours. Don't religiously stick to what the packet says because you'll end up with nothing. And the other thing about these tomatoes, I'm on a rant now. The other thing about these tomatoes, they were saying 25 seeds per packet. And they weren't cheap, they were like a couple of quid a packet. And I was thinking, 25 seeds, that's crazy. When you think how many seeds are in one tomato, you know, come on, at least give us 50 seeds maybe. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, I just thought it was a bit of a crazy packet. I'm not going to say which company. Just, you know, use your common sense when you're looking. On the subject of seeds, I have a little thank you because I've been given some seeds. So my lovely friend Jackie in Canada, who gave me the sweet peas, has just sent me another couple of packets of seeds from, I guess if you're in Canada, you might know this company, West Coast Seeds, and it's all organic, so I'm going to have a lovely browse of that later. And I have to say, for years I've been using Chase Organics, part of the organic gardening catalogue, but I've noticed over the years that more and more of the catalogue is not organic, so I'm kind of pulling away from using them. I've got a couple of packets today which I'll show you in a second, but I'm starting to pull away from using them because I don't want to be spending money and giving a company profits to invest in non-organic practices. I'm really vehemently opposed to it. So I think Organic Gardening Catalogue, thank you for the seeds I've had over the years. I don't mean thank you because they've given them to me, of course they haven't, but I think my relationship with you has come to an end. Anyway, back to what Jackie sent. So I've got another pumpkin. It's a French heritage, a French heirloom, which is great because I do love my French varieties, being a bit of a francophile. And this one is called Galeur de Cygne, I think. What I'm really looking forward to with this one, I don't know if you can make it out on there, it's got a warty skin. It looks to me actually like it's been covered with Rice Krispies. If you're not British, you probably won't know what that means, but any Brits, you'll know what I mean when I say Rice Krispies. Can't wait. And I've also got these ones that are called, whoopsie, they're called Calypso. Now they look for all the world like pea beans, don't they? So if you remember last year I grew pea beans, which are a climbing French type bean grown specifically for drying. I only had a small harvest from them, and I don't know whether it's because they were a bit swamped out by the gigantes, because the gigantes were gigantes in the end. I'm not sure. Anyway, I kind of sort of made a decision about September, October last year. Now, I won't grow them again. I didn't get a good enough yield. And then over the next couple of months, I scoffed all the beans. Scoffed the lot. I didn't save any for seed. And as I've crept into this year, I've thought, oh, I really would like to grow them again. Rats, why did I eat them all? So yay, Jackie sent these. But these are a bush variety. It says they might get to, where did I read it? Up to about 45 centimetres tall, about 1.5 feet. The mind boggles because they look exactly like the pea beans. So it kind of fascinates me to think about how things have diverged, and maybe once upon a time 100 years ago someone's bush variety got really tall and that was what the beans were saved from, and they kept saving them, and the bush gradually got taller and taller and taller and became a climber. But anyway, so I'm delighted with those because I did have a change of heart about having scoffed all my pea beans last year, so that's great to give those a go. I need a second plot just for squash, because also Heather, thank you. Oh, Heather, I can't remember whether you're in Canada or America. I'm so sorry. You're in Canada too. I think you're in Ontario. Has sent me some carnival squash, and they're quite a small one. So I'm hoping, I honestly don't know where I'm going to find space for everything, but I'm hoping because they're quite small, maybe I can do them up the fence, although the fence has already been earmarked for the acoccia and the loofah. Maybe we'll get one of these snuck in as well. Anyway, that's enough seed digressing. Oh, sorry, I've got an itchy nose. Time to get on with sowing some seeds. So, back to kind of timings and things. One of the other things I make sure of is for about the last 2 or 3 weeks, actually no, it's been long, hasn't it, because I planted, or I sowed my pepper and celeriac about 4 weeks ago. So for the last 4 weeks, 5 weeks or so, I've had the compost just sitting in the kitchen, because the kitchen is the warmest room in the house, so my compost is nice and warm. I mean, it's not warm to touch, but it's not really, really cold. So if you're starting some seeds at home and you've got your compost either in the shed or the garage or an outdoor space, bring it in a good week or so before you want to start sowing, because again, if we start putting our seeds into freezing cold compost, they're just going to stay asleep. These seeds need encouragement to wake up. They need some warmth, they need some light, they need to kind of recognise that, it's time to start growing. So the compost has been just at room temperature for the last few weeks. Oh, sorry, I've really got an itchy nose today, I don't know why. I've spent, the other day I spent about an hour making all my lovely paper pots, which might seem like a hideous amount of time, but I did make nearly 200. And it was fine because I was watching the Paralympics on catch up, because I kept missing it because it was on so late at night. So I was popping it on the computer and making my pots at the same time. Yay! Gotta love a freebie. All my pots, 200 and odd pots for absolute zero money. Right, so what am I sowing today? I am going to do, where have I put them? Organised chaos in the kitchen today. I'm going to do my celery, my leeks and my tomatoes, and I've got a handful of some leftover sweet peas. If you remember, I sowed a load in the cold frame about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and as an experiment I wanted to start some off indoors. Now the thing with starting them indoors, the warmth should get them going, but I don't want them to go too quickly. So once they're actually showing, I'll pop them down to the cold frame, or I might stage them outside the flat first of all to chill down a bit and then go to the cold frame. Okay, let's get on with sowing. So I've got 3 different varieties this year. I've got my good old Gardener's Delight, which I just love, and I've said it before but I'll say it again. One of the reasons I like them is they're quite a high acid tomato, so they're good for bottling. They're a cherry, but they always come up really quite big. So in actual fact, one went flying, where did it go? I think it's there. If you're cooking with them, because they come up quite big, it's not like other cherries where you have to use 25 million. So I've managed to squeeze in, or I'll get another one in the corner. I've got 40 individual pots, and with my tomatoes I like to sow them individually. It might seem excessive to be, I'm probably going to be planting about 80 today, but when you think about it, bear in mind I like to have about 30 to 40 plants. Last year I think I had 34 plants, and I've worked out that basically that's enough plants, if they all produce well, to give me enough tomatoes to last a whole year. Now obviously I'm only an individual. If you're a family of 4, you could probably do with more, but on the other hand maybe you don't cook with as many tomatoes as I do. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to probably plant, at least I'll do 40 of the Gardener's Delight, and then I'll probably do 20 each of the others. So, some of my seeds are stuck together. So these are the seeds I saved last year. I used 3 different methods, if you remember, if you saw that video. If not, I'll put the link. Oh, there's 2 in there, never mind. I'll put the link under this video if I remember. Generally, fermentation is considered sort of the most successful way. Some I fermented, some I simply washed. And then with the Rose de Berne, which is my lovely, much chunkier tomato that's from France, I also buried some quarters of it directly in the soil in the garden as a sort of planned volunteer, is I think the buzzword people use for it. No signs of them yet, of course, because of course it's far too cold, but probably what I'll do at the site where I buried them, I will probably in the next week or so just fit just put over the top of the soil a little mini cloche that I made from, it's basically a 5 litre water bottle that I cut the bottom off. If ever you see 5 litre water bottles in dustbins, grab them, because they make great little individual cloches for plants. Right, I think that's that. It's not keep those. And they really don't want much of a covering. I'm just gonna, yeah, they've mostly got firm down. Give them just a little gentle prod to make sure they've got some good contact with the soil. Compost, dirt, whatever you want to call it. I don't do anything fancy pants with my compost. I don't have perlite or vermiculite or any of the other ites. I don't do ites because they cost, and I try to garden for zero money, or as little money as I can. And hopefully if you've seen the gardening videos from say last year or when I was on the other channel, you'll see that even though I spend almost nothing on my little garden, I seem to do quite well with my veggies. So don't worry if you haven't got any sort of fancy pants equipment, if you haven't got fancy pants compost. You know what? In nature, what have we got? We've just got a bit of dirt and a seed, haven't we? So I don't use grow lights, I don't use heat mats, I don't use anything like that. It's just the warmth of the sun, trying to do things at the right time of year. So for instance now, our daylight hours are getting longer. That's what I was saying about there's no point, I don't see any point in starting tomatoes off in January when we've got, if we're lucky, 6 hours of daylight a day. It's just not enough. It's not what would happen in nature. And I know that in gardens it isn't nature, this is manufactured by us. But I think the more we can try to work with nature and replicate nature, then the less money we have to spend, which has got to be a good thing, hasn't it? Okay, so that's the Gardener's Delights done. I'm going to do the other tomatoes shortly, but first of all, oh no, that is the other tomatoes. Let me put that there so I know it's not done. I'm going to do the celery because it's just ever so slightly different. I don't know if you saw my video of me planting the celeriac, but the celery, I'm using leftover seed. I hope it's going to be okay. The celery, like the celeriac, they're the tiniest seed. Has it got a use by on there? No, of course not, that would be too helpful. Because they're so tiny, I actually don't cover them. Let's see if I can show you how teeny tiny they are. You can see how tiny, you probably won't be able to pick up how teeny tiny they are. So, yeah, I'm not going to cover them, I'm just going to get them some good contact on the soil. Again, I've moistened all the soil beforehand because I don't want to come along now and water and just wash all my little seeds away. So it's literally just a little sprinkle in each station. And then what I would hope for, how many have I got? 5, 10, 15, 20. Ah, yes, I remember counting them out now. I'm aiming to have about 40 plants for the garden. Because I use celery as a cut and come again, I like to have a lot of plants because then on one day I'll take from one plant, next day the next plant, next day the next plant, and so on, so that by the time I come back to the first plant, it's had a few days of not being picked and it's had a chance to put out some new leaves for me. Was that a lot from there? So yeah, I've kind of scattered liberally. There's probably maybe 10 or so in each little station, so that when the time comes to prick them out, hopefully I'll get at least 2 good seeds from each of my little pots, and that will do me. And the great thing about using the paper pots is when that time comes, which will probably be in about 4 weeks or so. Who wants some more? Me at the back, me at the back. Okay, pipe down. Yeah, in 4 weeks or so, when I come to prick them all out, the pots will have got quite soggy from all the watering. But that's great, because then when it comes to it, let me show you on a dry one. One is empty. When it comes to pricking out, it's really easy because this will be quite wet. I simply just tear open the side, and it's much easier to do than this. So I tear it open, and then I can kind of sort of lay it flat so that all my little seedlings are sort of, and it's much easier to prick them out because they're really tiny when you prick them out. Same with the celeriac, and it just means that there's less disturbance, less handling. It's great. I love it. I love my paper pots. So, like I said, I'm not going to cover them, but I'm just going to press them all down so they've got good contact with the soil. It's such an exciting time of year, isn't it? It's so funny. Every time I sow seeds, doesn't matter what the seed is, what time of year, you know, whether it's celeriac right back in January or these tomatoes and things now. But I get so giddy with the excitement of thinking, imagine if every seed works, imagine if every plant grows. Well, I don't have space for every plant to grow, that's for sure. But it's just wonderful, isn't it, this sowing them and having so much optimism and excitement for what might be just a few weeks down the line. Imagine, you know, where are we now? Middle of March, April, May, June, July. In 4 months' time, this will be in the kitchen on the bench again, but as a vegetable. Oh, it's great. Yay! Now, finally, for my leeks, I've done 3 of my origami pots. I hope you all saw the origami pot making. Oh, it's so dinky. I'll spread them quite thinly across the 3 pots. Basically, what I want to do is give them space to grow, obviously. I want to give them some depth for their roots to grow. And then again, when it comes time to planting out, it's great. I just have to tear down the side of the pot, release all my gorgeous leeks with their roots. Yum, yum, yum. Now, leeks never do great for me on our site. They don't do great for anyone. And I did, at the end of last year, I was thinking, oh, is it worth bothering with at all anymore? But you know what? For the few I do get, yes, it's definitely worth bothering, because you just, I mean, it's like any of the veg we grow, isn't it? You just cannot beat the taste of it fresh from your own garden. The other day I had to buy a potato for a recipe because my own potatoes are finally finished, and it just wasn't the same. And I was thinking, oh, come on, potatoes, grow. So yes, I am ever the optimist. I'm always thinking maybe this year will be the year that something will grow well that hasn't in the past. So this time it's the leeks. Fingers crossed. Now they do want a bit of a covering, not a huge amount, just, half a centimetre, if that. Just firm it ever so slightly so all the seeds are in good contact below and above. Yay! And what I'm going to do, actually I might show you in situ, because this is the stage of the year at which we get a little bit, how shall I put it, troubled for space. You know what I mean? So, actually, let me go and show you what I'm planning to do. Yeah, it'll be easier to show you rather than try and tell you. So up to this point in the year, this is my setup, and it works quite well for me because I've just got these 4 little trays. But obviously, as the season progresses, I need more and more space. Excuse the bubble wrap on the window, it's just for a bit of privacy. So at the moment, this is a south-facing window. I get tons and tons of light, and I've got sort of white walls around, so there's lots of light to bounce around, or bounce to light around. And everything's doing quite well at the moment. That's the orange bell peppers. It's a sweet pepper. and the celeriac, and then I've got these lovely paprika peppers, which if they come to fruition, they'll be for drying and grinding for paprika. That was a bit of random leftover celeriac I just chucked in. And then the very last of some pelargonium seeds. I think 5 out of 6 have come up. And then here, so disappointing. This is the Dulong de Londe pepper. It's another sweet pepper. Last year I sowed, about the same amount, sort of 10, 12, and I had 1 come up. This year I've got 2, 3, there's one over there, 4, and then this one, look, that's been in there for about 5 weeks, and it's finally come up. So it just shows you have to be patient with peppers. It doesn't look like anything's going to come up in the other pots, but I will leave them for another couple of weeks just in case they want to show their little heads. So they're all doing fine, but now I've got to make space. So at this stage in here, what I do, stepping back, where I've got my little window seat, normally there's cushions all along the back here, obviously they've gone to make space for the trays. What I'll do now is, these cushions will come off and I'll put a little surface across the top, and then all of these trays, which are now established, will come down onto here, and then my new seed trays, tomatoes, etc. will go into the windowsill. Now the only thing here is, this little step down, it is a bit darker, so what I will do is get a couple of cardboard boxes and cut them so that I sort of have a half a box here, and then again half a box here, and then on the inside of the boxes line them with either some tin foil or paint them white, so that all the light that's coming in from the window gets bounced back onto those seeds there. And then eventually what will happen is I'll end up having to spread out and even have seed trays all over the floor. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this sort of scene in your homes too. Dining tables absolutely covered, bathrooms where you have to move seeds to get into your bath. It's what we do for our food, isn't it? I remember earlier on I was mentioning keeping the compost in the house to warm it up. I keep my little watering can down there. It's got a very fine rose on it. I fill it with water, I leave it there for a couple of days, and it comes to room temperature, so that when I am watering, as I've done this morning, my gorgeous little plants don't get a shock. You can also see I need to start, never mind doing all my sowings today, I need to also start pricking out. So with the peppers, I've sown 2 per station, although that one's got 3. Now I'm going to do an experiment this year, as I mentioned in my video when I was sowing these. I've read in a few places that sowing peppers together, 2 together like this, they grow stronger. Now, I've read this, but I can't see much evidence. I didn't see any pictures, anything like that. So with half of these, I'm going to try it. So when I pop them on, I'll pop 2 on together, with half of them. And then the other half, I will do my normal thing of selecting the best seedling and discarding the other. The celeriac are also at the stage for pricking out now. I grew them for the first time last year, so I sort of used the principles I've learned with growing celery for their pricking out, and basically it's very fiddly, but you need to start pricking them out as soon as you've got a couple of true leaves. So what I'll do with these little pots is just tip the whole lot out and then gently tease, and then get them potted into individual pots, and at the point when they go into individual pots, they seem to really take off. So yeah, that's another little job to do today. Just a final thing on their position here. It is south facing. It is, in the daytime it's really warm, but at night this window still gets quite chilly. So I do put their propagator lids back on, and then this bubble wrap I just sort of fold over the top of the whole of it, just to keep them nice and cosy and snug. And they seem, apart from the Dulong de Londe, they seem to be fairly happy. Oh, it's so exciting. Right, let's get back to those tomatoes. So I'm now going to get on with the last of my tomatoes, which is the Chadwick cherry and the rose de Berne, and then the sweet peas, and that'll be enough sowing for today, but then I need to start pricking out that lot that are in the window. So I've got a bit to do, haven't I? It should keep me out of mischief for a while. So I'm going to say cheerio for now and let you all get into your mischief, whatever that is. But just bear in mind that thing I was saying the other day, don't panic at the moment, there's still loads of time. And look, I get great tomatoes every year. I hope I haven't just jinxed myself. If I've just jinxed myself, I'm going to need someone with a size 10 to come and give me a boot up the backside. What I was trying to say is, I do okay every year with my vegetables in the garden, and I seem to do things, if a lot of other people and press is to be believed, I do everything way too late, but it seems to work. So you've got plenty of time to get your tomatoes in, you've got plenty of time to get your potatoes in, you've got plenty of time. So why don't you have a cup of tea, think about what needs sowing, get your bits and bobs together and do a bit of sewing this afternoon. Yay! Oh, well, on that note, I shall say cheerio. Take care, everyone, and have fun with your seed sowing.